Hey everybody, we are on episode 2 of the Tea and Tequila show with book babes Sarah Fox
Yay!
of the Bookish Fox and Rocky Callen from rockycallen.com. We are writers and editors, book coaches, and bookish badasses through and through. And this show is for anyone who is equally obsessed to writing, books, or reading as we are. And today we're going to talk about why reading is so important for writers. So you came up with this, Sarah. Why don't you start off with what you found? You mentioned this in the last call about why writing is so important when you want to be a writer.
Yes. Okay, there's so much. It's almost hard to pick where to begin. So I'm going to start with the basic craft. So it's really helpful to read books if you want to develop your craft. So it's like you wouldn't expect to build a house without ever seeing a house. So it's really crucial to actually be reading books, particularly in your genre, if you actually want to write the book. And it's helpful to do exercises even while you're reading. You can read it, but it's good to pay attention through it, whether it's a book club through discussions like this character didn't work for X and Y reason, or just even copying passages down and then trying to write in that style just to add more stylistics to your toolbox. You don't want to write a book, obviously, on the style of like John Green, but it's good if you did certain things with narrative that you like the narrator's voice. You can pick some of those techniques and apply it to your own book. And also it's good to read in your genre if you want to query. Like if you want to be traditionally published, they love to see in your query letter, this book is like Marissa Meyer's Cinder, and it's also a combination of everything in one book. And so it's good to place yourself within the industry so they'll know how to sell it if they have space for it. So reading is just crucial on so many levels, whether it's selling your book or just the pure craft of it. And also it's fun. It's just fun to do. But reading is so important if you actually want to be a good writer.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. And, we both are obsessed with reading. We love reading. And I find that just like what you said, you can actually turn your reading into writing exercises. And it's not like what you just said. It's not about copying. It's about experimenting. So when you are trying to develop your craft and you think about it, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master of your craft. You have to be able to invest the time and energy to make sure that you find your literary voice. And your literary voice is going to be so distinct to anyone else's. It's going to be this gorgeous combination of things that you've internalized, things that you've experimented with, sort of your natural raw talent, but you want to fine-tune that raw talent. You want to make sure that you really hone it down to a really potent weapon so that when you do write, it has the resonance you desire. And what I find is that a lot of people don't go into that part of the process. They want to just like write a book and then, all right, now what do I do? And then you want to ship it off and have it edited. But you definitely need to have it edited. Like that's important.
Truth.
And you can get a developmental editor to help you in this on these earlier stages. But if you want to be a career writer, if you want to write for the rest of your life and you want to be considered a master of it, then you need to take the time to really explore what's out there. And like Sarah was talking about, you need to know what books are in your genre. You need to know somewhat the trends that are going on. You need to know what kind of writing is going on in your space. Not because you need to follow those things at all, but it's good to know where you stand within it. And when you do, you're just positioning yourself as an author in the know. So when you do approach agents or when you do go to directly market your own book, that you can actually talk to your readers or talk to the agent with authority and say who it's like or isn't like, just like Sarah was talking about. So reading is a great way to look at how people have used characters, have used plots, have used stories, have used flow, have used structure. One thing I think
True.
was really awesome with reading a lot of books is that you find so many ways to structure a book. You can do, like with my last novel, it was heavily based off of flashbacks. So every chapter was a flashback to childhood and current moment. And I broke like so many rules. It was addressed to you. So everything was a letter. And so I broke a lot of the conventional rules we hear about when we think of writing a book. But for me, I knew I wanted to break those rules. And so that's one of the things that when you are working on mastery, and you need to know, like with Picasso, he was a phenomenal, just like realistic artist. But you wouldn't know that because he wanted to break all of the rules, but he also knew that he needed to know the rules to begin with. So absolutely read things that you love, that you don't love so much, because that is actually an extremely great lesson. Like, what did I not love in this book? What will I never do in my book? And use it as a lesson. Use it as a tool for yourself. It's such an awesome way to, one, entertainment, but two, just as it being a teacher if you allow it to be one.
It's true. And as you mentioned, it's good to know the genres so you know when you're breaking the rules. To break rules well, you have to do it intentionally. And that's the difference between making like certain grammar mistakes and purpose for stylistics versus people who are sloppy and just don't know what they're doing. You can break rules if you know the effect and what it's going to cause, but you won't know that unless you know the rules. That's why it's so good to read in the genre, so you can break conventions and do something interesting or add a twist to it. And it's also good to read outside the genre to get inspiration from other genres where you can do something new and mix them and kind of come up with a really unique book. And it's just good. You might learn other writing techniques from outside your genre. So it's good to be mostly in your genre, but also go elsewhere so you get inspiration. You're not another Twilight or something ridiculous like that.
Right, well, that's the thing, is that I remember, because I was entrenched in the trends, following trends. And there was a period of time when Twilight came out, which really threw the young adult genre into the spotlight. Mm-hmm. And so there was an emergence of lots of paranormal romance. And I would go through everything, and I would find true brilliance in some of these books, and then others that I knew were purely for entertainment and not necessarily something I would pick up again, or something that I would really seek out. Other people love it, and that's fine. That's good for them. But to know what fits for you, like I know that I will always want some element of a poetic writing style in my writing. Even when I write really dark or scary scenes, that's part of my writing style, because that's something that I love to read. And you want to look at the trends that are happening, and like you were saying, look outside of it, because what I found during that period of time was that I wasn't fully satisfied with what was really prominent in the genre. So I did look elsewhere and read outside of the genre to get stimulated for what does like these family dynamics look like when you go really into it? What does action look like when you go really into it from a thriller standpoint? Things like that. So if you know what you're looking for, like if you know you want to write a mysterious, thrilling, heartbreaking book about XYZ, then go find books. This is one of my favorite exercises. Let me see if I actually have a book with a cover on it.
Real life problems.
I know. All my books are naked.
Scandalous. Keep the G rocky. Keep
so
it G.
Scandalous. So naughty. So this is something I love to do as a writer, is I like to go through the books and I look at the reviews on the back. I look at the reviews within. And so I tend to actually read books or pick up books to buy based off of their reviews, with their blurbs that they get. Because like this one, Everything by Nicola Yoon, it says, I give all the stars in the sky to Nicola Yoon's sparkling debut. Everything is powerful, lovely, heart-wrenching, and absorbing. I devoured it in one sitting. The rare novel that lifts and shatters and fills you all at once. That is the kind of books that I would want to write. Mm-hmm. So I look for that sort of thing. If I don't find books that, if it says something different, and sometimes they're, you know, equally awesome, but it's not something that resonates with what I want to create, then they tend to be sort of back burner books to read. And so look at reviews when you're looking at books, not necessarily reviews like on Amazon, although you can do that, but reviews in terms of what's written on the book itself, like what the book is described as, and that will help you narrow down, well, which book should I check out first? What books are being described as I wish my own writing to be described? And so that way you sort of feel into the energy and experience that author has created for their reader. I want to go on another tangent, but do you have anything to on that, Sarah?
Yes. Also, the internet is full of like booktubers or book bloggers, and I would also, if you're looking for something in a genre you like, find the person who you agree with. It might be us, we'll do some books, but it might be someone else. But find the person where you actually feel like, oh, they look at reviews of books you've read that they've done, and then they might resonate with you, and then you can watch their channel, read their blog, see what they're recommending to you, and that's a good source of book recommendations, or even asking your friends who have similar tastes so you can keep finding things that are good or that you'll enjoy so that you can learn from it and implement it in your writing, or just enjoy it, because that's the point of reading.
Yes. Yeah, so I love it. Okay, so far we've talked about why writing's so important. Reading so important for writing, because we want to make sure that we are exploring, we're experimenting with our voice, with what we want to create, with how we want to create, with what the rules are so we can break them, and then also making sure that we're positioning ourselves within the genre that we want to be in, and with the kind of voice that we want to be presenting to the world. So all of that is so important. It's so valid, and it's a great excuse for you to go out and buy 10 books right now.
You have permission from us. Get a book
You have
haul.
permission from us to go on a book buying spree. So anybody asks, let them know. Sarah and Rocky told me to. We're going to buy some too. So this is another thing that I wanted to mention in terms of book writing and the publishing process, because not everybody thinks about this, is that when you, especially if you're going traditional, but not all the time, like this is a good thing to keep in mind for everybody. This whole jacket and the first few pages and the last few pages of a book are filled with juicy information. Let me tell you about it. So, say you fall in love with a book cover. A lot of times, who the designer of the book cover is listed on the jacket itself. So, if you're self-publishing, you can look up who that designer is and go check them out. Another thing is that in the first few pages or last pages, there's generally an acknowledgement section. Mm-hmm. And for the acknowledgement section, there what you can find out are who the editor of the book is, who is the book's agent. A lot of times they shout out the agent. So if you've gone through a book, and I've done this before in terms of mapping out people who I would query for future projects, is you've read a book and you're like, this is exactly the style of book I'm creating. You know, I'm creating an epic fantasy with, you know, huge family dynamic, and the writing is XYZ, and like we could be sister books, right? Mm-hmm. Then check out the agent and see what they are currently looking for, because obviously there's a soft spot in their heart for similar books. So from the jacket, from the first few pages, last few pages, you can find things out like designer. You can
Hmm.
find out editor. You can find out agent. And then sometimes there's like these juicy tidbits about, where someone went on retreat or where someone got mentorship or where someone was able to find resources for their book. So a lot of times readers will just skip right to the content, read through, and sort of discard. But there's so much, especially for us writers, that we can get from the cover and those first few and last few pages. And another thing is in the author bio, check out where people are located, because if people are local to you, they might be open to either a conversation or they might be doing events near you, and so you can go and actually attend where the author is speaking or signing.
Which would be amazing.
That
They
would
might
be
even
fun.
get coffee with you. You don't even know.
You never know. You never know. And that's the thing, is always be open to the possibility, always be open to the resources. There's nothing wrong in asking, and just know that things might not work out, but why not try? And when you do that, you allow the possibilities to come to you. Even if certain connections don't work out, it might lead to something that is really helpful in the future.
Hmm. That's true. That is good advice, Rocky. Also, I had another reason why reading is important is inspiration. So if you're reading an author, like Rocky and I went to this book tour with them, and it was amazing because we saw the authors talk, and so inspirational to see them and be like, oh, we want to do that one day, which led us to our accountability for getting our books done by the end of October. So seeing other authors, like going to their talks, reading their books, and if you see a really good book, I'm instantly inspired to write more. So if I'm reading a book I enjoy, or there's an author's work in general I enjoy, like John Green, I love him. He inspires me to write. And going to his events where he has the screaming fans, that also inspires me. So like follow authors you love. And they'll talk to you on Twitter. Every author I've talked to on Twitter has responded. So that's always been exciting. But there's so many, just like engage with a lot of books and it will inspire you to keep writing. Because it's like if you don't look at what the goal is, you won't be motivated to go there. But it helps you keep the eye on the prize if you keep reading books that you really enjoy.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's this exercise I do with clients that I think that everyone should do, and it's you write the ideal 5-star review for your book. And why I say that is like that beautiful review blurb that was on the back of this book. Think about that end game, like Sarah's talking about, the end game, like when your book is done, when your book is published, what do you want people to say about it? And when you do that, that inspires you to keep writing, because you know those readers are out there and that they're waiting, and that you need to invest the time and energy to create, to make those reviews possible. And so when you keep engaging with great books and with authors and seeing them on tour sort of in their glory, then it lets you associate and say, I want to be an author. I want to be at that podium. I want to be behind that table. I want to be hearing that kind of praise. Then it inspires you. It inspires you to keep going, because the writer life can be a difficult one. It's a roller coaster ride. But when you focus on those moments, those gems that are in the future, then it keeps you staring down blank pages even when it's hard, and keeps you devoted and diligent to keep showing up for it.
It's true.
All right, my loves. So, any last points, Sarah, before we sign off?
Just keep reading. Look at Reading Rainbow on Netflix if you need some inspiration. There might be some kid books if you're writing those from it. Except they changed the theme song, so don't judge it too hard. It's horrible. Where's the spaceman and butterfly that I grew up with? But just basically keep reading and tell your friends about what you're reading. And that also helps you articulate what you look for in a book. And just keep doing book recommendations. Just basically like those posters in your middle school library, just read.
Exactly, exactly. So that is episode 2 for the Tea and Tequila show, all about the importance of reading. I think it'd be awesome if you guys could comment either books that you adore so other writers, readers can see your recommendations, but also to tell us about how you experiment with your writing and how reading inspires you. So, with much love, light, and bookish badassery, here is Rocky Callen and Sarah Fox signing off.